Good evening, everybody. I would like to welcome you all to the first Finance Committee meeting of the year. We will start with a roll call.
Mia present. Caroline Lutz present.
Charles Burdell Williams present.
Ross Whiting present.
Liam Mulhern present.
Robin Murphy present.
Jenny Lemon present.
And Daniel Schultz present. Next item of business is an approval of the December meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
For a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. We can begin the primary portion of the agenda, Mr. Sweigard.
Thank you, Dan. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
All right, tonight, as always, we'll take a look at the interim financial statements through the end of December. We'll carry us through the end of the calendar year to December 31st, 2025. We will take another look at the state budget. There was some more information that came out since the release of the state budget, and some of it changes the district's situation a good bit. Next, we'll look at our 2024 independent audit report and the results of this report. We'll take a really brief look at that. And last, we'll talk about three actions, board actions for next week, the next week's legislative meeting. All right, first on the agenda, looking at the balance sheet for the general fund of the school district. Again, we still are in a healthy financial position. Lost my pointer.
Here. Look right there.
As you recall from prior meetings, year over year, our cash balance is down. As you remember, the general fund holds a lot of the cash for the other funds, in particular the capital reserve and the capital projects fund. And since we have an ongoing project, so that money has been transferred over to cover that cost. The drop in cash doesn't necessarily mean we're in a bad financial position. We still have a relatively robust fund balance of $30 million in reserve. Looking at our revenues over expenditures, year over year, to see this number somewhat comparable is a good sign. It means that we adequately accounted for the increase in expenditures with increases in revenue, and we're meeting our obligations. On the next page, we'll take a deeper dive into the revenue and expenditures. Our local source revenues of $102 million in the current year are primarily driven by increases in real estate taxes, real estate tax rate, as well as robust performance. Interest income, there still hasn't declined as much as was anticipated, and some strength in some other local taxing categories. Sorry, very touchy. On the state side, we're showing growth year over year. So what we did in the month of December, if you recall, we received tax equity money last year that was designated for the 25-26 school year. We recognized that as revenue, and that, in essence, was an increase of $1.1 billion. Because the state was a little slow in passing their budget, the money isn't coming in as fast as it did last year, as evidenced by our drop in state revenue, which should be an increase, and our drop in federal revenue, which flows through the state side. But year over year, we want to see the tax increase that we planned for. We want to see a strong local tax revenue. That's what we're witnessing with this tax collection through the end of December. On the expenditure side, as you know, 70% of what the district does is staffing and benefits related to their staffing. The two increases in our regular and special education expenditure categories are the results of contractual staff increases primarily, and related benefits, whether it be PSERS or medical insurance. The other item that really stands out, I'll point out again, that's the capital improvement grant issued by the state. We spent $1.3 million to repair the roof of the high school as a result of an award from the state of $1 million in grant money, which we have applied for and will hopefully receive shortly. Increases in transportation are contractual. We have a 4% annual increase. The decrease in information and data, that would be everything related to information technology within the district. If you recall, again, last year we bought a whole bunch of Chromebooks. They came in 10 days before July 1st, so we had to recognize them as an expense last year. instead of this year, so we have not spent that money this year. Any questions on the balance sheet or revenues and expenditures before we move on to the next page? So far, still a structural balance within the district. This curve this year is a little softer because of the delay in the passing of the state budget, but no reason for alarm at this point. And looking at local revenue, year over year, our real estate tax collection is up 1.7%, in line with our tax increase. We are starting to see some of the impact of some of the real estate tax assessments coming in. So it isn't quite where we want it to be, but we're still seeing, still seeing the positives in that category. Our delinquent real estate taxes are, if you recall, we had a very significant drop in them last year, and it's kind of, as a cash flow situation, it's rebounding. And our investment earnings are still outperforming expectations. A lot of our long-term investments cashed in or redeemed themselves in December, which is why we had a large payout and why we're seeing year-over-year increases. Just for the record, we anticipated through primary increases only $1.7 million of interest income for this year, and we already have 1.8. So, any questions on local revenue collections? All right, the state budget update. This is very similar to the spreadsheet I shared last month in terms of what the state budget, or what was passed in the state budget with two changes. One, the final tally or the final allotment to Cheltenham School District for the school mental health and security grant was released. It was $178,000, exactly the same almost what it was prior year, but that just keeps it level funded so we can continue to run. These are primarily mental health counseling programs at Cedarbrook and the high school, and additional security measures at the high school as well. And in the past, elementary schools, wherever we're needed. So that's one development from the prior month. The other development is in the Ready to Learn block grant. You can see this number has changed, and we'll dive into that a little more in the next slide. So there was a little bit of confusion about the Ready to Learn block grant. I thought it would be easiest to present it exactly the way we receive it from the state. So in the 24-25 school year, last year, we received $340,333 of Ready to Learn block grant foundation money. That's the same amount of money we received forever, for a very long time. And what was new last year was what was a tax equity piece. And in order to fulfill the requirement for the tax equity piece, the primary reason or the primary method of drawing down that money is to reduce real estate taxes, which obviously you can't do without passing a budget that incorporates the tax equity money, showing that the budget is balanced using those funds. So this money was deferred until the prior year. When the state passed its budget, it released a spreadsheet which showed the Ready to Learn block grant foundation monies of $1.4 million. So in essence, this foundation money plus the tax equity, $1.4 million, and an additional tax equity amount of $1.1 million, which will be pushed into the 26-27 school year. When the state finally released the application for districts to apply for the Ready to Learn block grant money, those allocations changed. The foundation money was reduced back to $340,000, and the tax equity allotment was increased to 2.2. So it was the same total, it's just the timing of when the districts receive it. So now instead of receiving $1.1 million this year, we have to wait till next year to recognize this $2.2 million.
These are not even allowing recognition 1 year early.
We'll discuss that. So the difference between these two grants, one, the foundation grant, obviously that foundation grant, which has existed for a very long time, is for academic purposes, full-day kindergarten, class size reduction, STEM programs, STEM curriculum, professional development for teachers. and career and technical programs. So if we did get $1.4 million of regular block grant money, we'd have no trouble using it to offset existing expenditures, because it is not it's not a supplement, it's a supplant type grant we can use to supplant existing funding. On the tax equity side, that has to be used for these specific purposes. The board elected to use it for any and all of these purposes. So, we in theory could recognize some of that money if we want to mitigate or replace lost revenue as a result of real estate tax assessments. It's a little late to supplement the farmstead supplement because that was already released and that was already approved last year. And we already approved our tax rate because we didn't get the budgeted monies allocated until November, so we aren't able to use it for that purpose. And we don't have a tax rebate program established. That would have to be established in line with a real estate tax collection cycle. So, if we did want to allocate some of that money, we would have to determine what we might have lost from a real estate tax assessment appeal in the court system, or we could use it to reduce existing debt. Yes, Jay.
We still have some outstanding tax assessment appeals, correct? That are large potentially.
This is correct, yes.
Okay. So that may be a good thing.
We could adopt a resolution and recognize the revenue base to offset those appeals in the current year. We don't have any cash outflow yet as a result of that.
Okay, all right.
Any other questions?
The last piece, I just thought outlining what the way things are currently aligned, what the revenue recognition would look like for the regular and block grant. So in prior years, we're just recognizing $340,000 as revenue. This year, we have already recognized $1.4 million in tax equity money as revenue as we budgeted for this piece to balance the budget this year. And next year, if we don't apply any towards real estate tax assessments, we could use the $2.2 million to balance next year's budget. And it kind of looks like we're following a pattern from the state where they keep adding $1.1 million for a regular block. And that's in lieu of what would traditionally have been basic educational subsidy increases, special education subsidy increases, and standard increases that follow prescribed formulas based on district operation.
No single pause, but I also thought I saw a hand. So are there any more questions?
I'm just not, sorry, I'm not clear on this tip because I'm not clear on why the total line every year is labeled the same years, 24, 25.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a typo.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. So it should go down. And then, so we have revenue recognized 24, 25, 25, 26. Should the last row say 26, 27? That as well? Okay. Yes. Okay.
Sorry, I don't like what I went today.
I'm sure you did. I'm sure you did. But I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't misunderstanding the
I'm sorry.
budget.
This is supposed to be each year.
Got it. Each year.
Doesn't work.
Got it. Okay.
And this was just a copy paste in a rush.
That's right.
Really, numbers is Josh, they all start with the same.
Right, exactly.
I had a question and I lost it. So anybody else have questions or comments? I remembered my question. If the money, you alluded to other channels that this money could have been distributed, would we have received the same amount or less or more had it gone through those other channels?
Let's say we have a tax settlement appeal in this year, 25-26 for $500,000, and we want to claim some of the tax equity money to offset it. Then this 25-26 revenue recognition, we could increase this by $500K. All right, it's too hard to write with that. And then we would reduce this number by $500K, and then we would have to figure out how to balance the budget with that much less next year.
Thank you.
So in my opinion, if we feel like we're going to be okay about having a structural equity this year, then maybe we defer to next year and use it to offset tax. Sure. Any other questions on revenue recognition? All right, so I could not get our independent auditor here tonight, the partner who ran the audit for us, but he will be here in February and he will present the audit. As a best practice, the board should be able to ask the independent auditor any questions they want. You can ask me to leave the room if you would like, but he'll be here next month. So this audit report has been posted to Cheltenham's website, so it's for public consumption at this point. A couple things I wanted to point out in the report. This is going to be incredibly boring without the report in front of you, but I'll just be really brief because we're going to go through it in detail next month. The independent audit report essentially consists of two parts. One is the district financial statements. What was our financial report, including the general fund, the cafeteria fund, capital projects fund, the student accounts. And the second part is a single audit report, and that is an audit of how we spent federal monies, whether we were compliant with how we spent those federal monies, and whether we had controls in place to make sure that we weren't misspending the federal monies. And that's a requirement for the federal government to receive said monies. So both of these audits, we received a clean opinion. It was a positive opinion. There was nothing identified that would put the district in jeopardy, or that there weren't internal control violations or material weaknesses that would have led to a misstatement of our financial statements. So that's very positive. And the other pages I wanted to point out was page 1 is that report itself, where the auditor clearly states that is his opinion of the school district. And page 70 is the report for the single audit that says the same information. Page 16 has the net position, which shows what we look at every month. What is the structural balance of the school district, and what are our current asset holdings. Page 20 looks at revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, which we also look at every month. Our monthly reports very much mimic what's going to be in this independent audit report, and that consistency was on purpose so that instead of listening to me all the time, you can listen to an outside auditor who can tell you the same information and show it in the same format. And page 64 is said schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Any questions on that? Like I said, I'll defer to next month where we can pull up the report and look at it in depth. All right, but again, if you did want to jump and grab this and you're listening in the public, it is on Cheltenham's School District's website in the business office under financial reports. All right, I included the Act 1 timeline just as a reminder. In February, as we will take a look at the preliminary budget of the school district for the 2026-2027 school year, and get a first look at our financial situation. All right, next topic, board action items. So I've been approved as a treasurer and just kind of been hanging out there as a treasurer year over year. It's been requested by our bondholders, which would be our insurance company, that we update that approval. So putting on for legislative approval myself as treasurer for this fiscal year comes with payment of $0. It's just the same stuff I'm doing anyway, but just a formality. The next item for board action is a bond proceeds reimbursement resolution. And in essence, what that says is when we do receive bond proceeds, any expenditures that we may have already incurred for projects related to those bonds through the general fund, we can reimburse ourselves if we so choose through those costs. So it gives ourselves the flexibility to to push those costs through bond issuance versus current expenditures. And we, of course, have that choice one way or the other. And the last board action item is we approved all of the contractors for the Cedarbrook and Glenside construction project last month. We did not approve a construction manager. If you recall, just last year, we did an RFP for a construction manager for the stadium project. When trying to redo the RFP in such a quick time, a year later, pretty much the largest players in the construction management field were asking, are you really going to consider a change? Because we're going to present similar information, or are you going to stick with the same entity? Sitelogiq, in essence, held their prices the same. It was basically the same price schedule they had presented the year before, which included a 5-year growth. So there was really no reason, with lack of participation, to do an RFP again. What did change is the number of hours. The number of hours is flexible, and the number of hours is a little more on this project because it does have so many prime contracts that are all going on at the same time. It requires a project manager on site more than what we have at the stadium, which, as you're rolling out turf and you have one crew out there installing turf, that project manager leaves. He's not, we didn't hire him to be there full time. He's just there as needed, which is half time. Any questions on this board action item or any of the board action items?
I have two. First, for Sitelogiq, clarifying question, they are who we're using for the stadium project. That's correct. And were there any aspects of the previous agreement that you guys felt like needed to be updated based on any learnings from the stadium project?
The agreement looks very similar. It just is obviously outlines different aspects of work because it has more prime content, and the real difference is the duration. So we're paying for personnel to work every month. So this is obviously more money because it's a 20-month project versus a 3 to 6 month project.
And thank you. And the other question was just for the action that we're looking at related to your board treasurer. Is there anything that, just maybe administratively that we need to be aware of that, because we didn't, execute past that action item back in June? Is there anything retroactively that we need to?
I'm going to add it to because in June we do the whole. These are the purchasing agents. These are the financials. We do that whole round of renewing all of our institutions and our personnel assignments. We'll just add the treasurer to that. We'll do that every year, and it won't be an issue.
Great. That's all I'm thinking.
All right, and before we close, we've been reviewing this spreadsheet every month because these are the biggest impacts to our budget year over year. So I have the one piece of information we were waiting to find out, which was released in mid-December, was what is our retirement contribution rate going to be, and it did decrease. That might be the first time ever that in 25 years this decreased, but it did decrease slightly year over year. And I think that's going to result in cost of avoidance of about $220,000. So not a tremendous amount, but every little bit counts. And as we've been talking about in prior months, it's worth mentioning again, this medical insurance rate is really what's going to drive our budget this year. It's been the biggest hurdle, as it's almost $2 million of additional expense. And again, that's just based on claims experience. We have a stop loss policy that covers any claim over $350,000. The district gets reimbursed so that we don't get wilder fluctuations in claims experience. But we had 2 very large claims. Fortunately, they went and they covered the summer period, so they covered 2 years. So we had a deductible, a $350,000 deductible for both claims for both years, which was a $1.2 million hit based on the timing, in addition to the claims themselves. The way our renewal works with CPAST is they look at past so many months of claims experience, and that drives how much they want you to pay going forward. We will receive our second look in the late winter, and hopefully we'll have a better claims experience, and hopefully that'll come down. So we're comfortable.
Regardless, statistically, that should even out even in the longer term, though, provided. Like if you look at past data and it's kind of like a rolling average, then likely even if it is higher in this coming year, it will likely decrease future, provided people don't also have major claims.
Yeah, with stop loss, you kind of have your year in the pickle barrel where you take a lot of hits. So this was a bad year. The year before, obviously we had some contractual changes in our prescription, and through CPAS we rebid our prescription coverage and our medical coverage, and we found some savings there. I think in our last teachers and support staff contract, we've managed to find some savings through negotiated reductions in prescription benefits and medical benefits. And that's going to continue to be a focus of ours. Because with the recent changes to the federal government, Medicaid, I don't anticipate this 100% going away. Even if it doesn't directly impact our plans, it impacts the country need for health insurance.
And just clarifying, it doesn't generally go down, correct? It's just that the amount it goes up is higher.
It's lower.
The last 3 years, the industry average has been 78%. So you can see we had 8.4 and 8 and 1.
And I will underscore that this is a comment, but please correct me if I'm not making a valid comment. This is a contractually negotiated bullet. So think about our contracts. This is a major factor that dictates what we
But just to reemphasize, every large employer is required to provide health insurance. We provide health insurance. This is more a factor of we just had really employees and or dependents that needed health coverage. They were very expensive claims because of the nature of what they were, and it was just bad things happen in life, bad things happen.
Any other comments or questions?
Being none, all I have.
Are there any questions from the public? I didn't see that number change, but I also didn't explicitly mention to those listening. If you have questions or comments about any of the items presented, please feel free to either raise your hand or type it into chat. In future, I'll try to make that statement at the beginning of the meeting. Since we did not, I want to give it 30 seconds before we do a motion to adjourn just in case.
Allows for any technical difficulties.
Right. I didn't start. I'm still seeing none.
There's the Q&A now.
There's now, okay. Great, thank you. All right,
You're
yes, see you next week, and these are every first Tuesday of the month, so we'll see you next month as well, I'm sure. Thank you, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all, see you later.